Let me tell you my story.
My skin is always like this. Let's talk about sex.
And put an end to fossil fuel exploitation
To prevent environmental catastrophe.
I've always been the quiet student in class. In second grade, I went to a small school with small classes. Still, it took me a long time to get comfortable with people. This was because, as a child, my mom and I often traveled, which meant always having to make new friends and leaving soon after. I always find myself drifting off in my own world, observing the others around me while saying very little. In and out of class, I was constantly told to speak up, bombarded with questions like, why are you so quiet, and why don't you speak up more? Two weeks into my third grade, my teachers explained to my mom that I was too introverted and too shy and had to repeat second grade. I remember the first time I was asked to present in front of my class. As soon as I stood, my heart was racing, palms sweating, mind gone completely blank as all eyes were on me, sort of like how I'm feeling right now. I couldn't help myself, but I started crying and crying and crying, feeling exposed and completely embarrassed. Every single time I've been asked to present over the years, I would constantly try to avoid it, or just deliver an awful presentation. I'd bring up countless amount of excuses to why I couldn't present that day. When I first came to Green School, I even chose my classes according to whether or not I'd be presenting in them, which led to me taking way too many art classes. Because I would always think of that time and feeling of being blocked, reminding me of that crying little girl. Even looking back last year, when my mom wanted me to come back to Green School purely just to do the Greenstone, because it'd be good for me and all, facing my number one fear. And now, I honestly can't believe I'm here, presenting in front of all of you. But the reason I'm able to do it is because I've discovered what the issue is. Have you ever heard of introverts and extroverts? Yes, let me explain. There's a big difference between introverts and extroverts. Introverts commonly are energized by spending time alone to concentrate and reflect on oneself, while extroverts are outgoing, expressive people who are typically with other people and enjoy being in the spotlight. Extroverts thrive in situations where there's a lot of social interaction. They're comfortable in groups and find it easy to approach strangers in busy environments. Introverts being the opposite. They become drained with too much social interaction. They tend to pursue activities that allow them to work alone and quietly or in small groups. Introverts are observers. They like to quietly process and observe others thoughtfully. An introvert is quick to listen, but slow to speak, while extroverts are slow to listen, but quick to speak. Now that we've heard about introverts and extroverts, I'd like to talk about ambiverts. Not many people have heard of this term, but it's basically a cross between both introvert and extrovert. Ambiverts sit on the spectrum of social interaction right between the two. They love spending time with people, but get tired after spending too much. They're capable of being alone, but an entire day sucks them into a depressed, unproductive mood. I would definitely consider myself an ambivert. I could go days on end alone in my room, but love to go out and socialize. I enjoy working in small study groups, but also need time to focus on myself. I'm afraid of speaking in front of large groups, but if you ask my friends, I never shut up. Depending on the situation and the people that they're around, ambiverts can display the qualities of an introvert and an extrovert. Now I'd like everyone who thinks they're an extrovert to please raise your hand. Take a look around and think of why you chose this. And now I'd like everyone who thinks they're an introvert to please raise your hand. Take a look around and think of why you chose this. And now the same for ambiverts. Please raise your hand. Take a look around and think of why you chose this. It's interesting to see the diversity in all three areas, especially being here in Green School, where we're mostly expected to be leaders. I've actually created and sent out a survey to the entire school, including students, teachers, and parents. In my survey, I've asked 2 simple questions like I've asked you guys here today. Do you consider yourself an introvert, extrovert, or ambivert, and why did you choose this option? This is a pie chart showing the percentage of people's choices. As you can see, introvert and extrovert tally to around the same amount, while most people fall under the ambivert category. I've selected a few of people's responses, and here they are. For a teacher's response was confident, outgoing, like hanging out with people, while a student's response was I talk a lot. For an introvert, a teacher responded with I'm comfortable being on my own, while a student's response was because I hate being around people. And an ambivert's response was a teacher's response for an ambivert was I go both ways, while a student's response was because I'm not always extroverted and I'm not always introverted. An important milestone in every child's life is education. School systems have the power to shape children through their teaching methods, whether it being in primary or in high school. I have found that these methods have been developed in a way to which more recognition and support is given to those who speak out rather than those who are more shy. In my opinion, extroverts are favored in most education systems around the world. In class, I would consider myself an introvert because I just don't like giving presentations, and I feel like I don't participate as much because I'm so shy and quiet. I would like to reflect upon how introverts have just as much to give in this life, and there should always be ways in where they can be taught alongside extroverts in a helpful manner. We're constantly taught that we need to conform to a certain character ideal, someone who is described as an alpha and someone who is more comfortable in the spotlight. This makes the average introvert cower and hide away, which unfortunately creates the fear of judgment. It has the capability of shaping your public character. People conform to trends or situations that make them uncomfortable, just to fit in and not to be judged. Society and social media has everyone trapped, not allowing us to be ourselves. I want to help you better understand how an introvert thinks and how introvert and extrovert should be taught in different ways that best suit them. We always hear schools talking about equal opportunity. I want to see how this can happen for us introverts and ambiverts. I feel that the current education system does not account for introverts, and I wanted to find out why. Therefore, I began reading several articles that talked about how introverts have risen above their personality traits and accomplished great things. However, introverts are still just swimming in a sea of extroverts. Teachers in schools have always thought group activities work best in a classroom. Now let me tell you, although this may be the perfect solution for some students, I can speak for a few and say this isn't true. In a class activity, I would definitely prefer writing an essay over presenting in class any day. And as said in the book Quiet by Susan Cain, introverts prefer to work independently, and solitude can be a catalyst to innovation. I've read and experienced that the best results do come from an individual working alone, because when working in groups, more quiet members don't always get to voice their opinion on an open ground. Now, I don't want to end my research here. I would love to collect more findings and ideas from all of you. Therefore, I've created an online forum, and I would like to ask all of you to think about what we can do to better help and change this. Would love to hear all your insights, so please go to this web address, silentvoices.lafora.com, or come find me after this presentation. So yes, I got held back, which had me growing up thinking I was undervalued and I felt overlooked a lot of the time. Because I was shy and quiet, it had affected my confidence and self-esteem. But comparing myself to how I was before, my confidence has progressed, not only with doing this Greenstone, but also through the last year, I've expressed myself in front of the camera and others through my modeling. Now that I feel better in my skin, I'm ready to go out in the world. This is my Greenstone, working up the courage to stand here in front of all of you today. To go through this process was a project larger than I could have ever imagined myself accomplishing. This is the farthest I've ever been out of my comfort zone. I'm rapidly overcoming my fears and learning to trust myself and being happy with my choices. I challenge all of you to trust your gut feeling, even if it means ignoring that little voice in your head. As hard and as scary as it may be, just face your fears. Thank you.